Yeah, I'm remembering. Stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Alrighty, any additions or deletions to the agenda? Public participation. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, I just wanted to inform the board, we did hire a demographer to assess the growth in our community and how that might impact enrollment in our school district. So we did get that report back. I will be posting that on our district website, and we will be using that to drive the remaining part of our facility assessment, and that there will be a workshop on September 28th at 6 o'clock to meet with the architects and sort through all that growth in our community. Mrs. Bogathy and I were able to attend an Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents session regarding negotiations in the Education Employment Board, and so we got updates on that last week. The Tri-Creek Education Foundation Run Walk is the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, and yours truly will be helping to organize the awards. And then on Monday, I've been enlisted to be a judge for the Lowell Labor Day Parade, so I'll be representing Tri-Creek. And that's my report. Just know I have flu. Duly noted.
Alrighty, board member report, anybody? Good. Regular business consent items. Approve the minutes on the meeting held Thursday, August 11th, 2022.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Personnel. Approve the personnel report dated Thursday, August 25th, 2022.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 2, approve the recommended salary schedule for the health aide position.
Yes, so you just approved a health aide here. This is a replacement position for our 6th nurse that we had last year. So we posted for a health aide, which required either a CNA or an LPN or possibly an RN license. And we were lucky enough to find an RN that wanted to work in this health aide position. It's a part-time position. It is daily, and it will rotate through the buildings to help with paperwork within the buildings. This person will also step in when we need a substitute nurse, which kind of happens pretty frequently, dealing with the kids and everything in that area. So the fortunate thing about having an RN in this position is that our nurses will not have to delegate their license to them, which would have been the case if we would have had a CNA or an LPN or any of that. So this is a higher level position, again, a part-time position. So what we're recommending here is 2 different rates for this person. A $22 an hour rate when they're doing the paperwork and the backup and just assisting the RN. And then we're paying $30 an hour for them to step into that role as a substitute. This is consistent with our substitute rate for RNs. So it's just making sure that she gets at least what she would have gotten if she would have been a substitute nurse. So the recommendation is $22 an hour while working with the district nurse and helping them do their paperwork and assisting them in the clinics, and $30 an hour when they actually take over the clinic themselves and it's under their license. Any questions?
I thought that was really creative for Dana and her team to come up with that. It's fiscal responsibility, and I think it's fair to the employees.
So moved. motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Business relations, approve the teacher appreciation grant policy.
So this is a yearly thing that we have to do, we have to review it. So we did meet with our discussion team with the teachers union. We presented the policy as we had it last year, and we're not recommending any revisions. So the teacher appreciation grant gets $40 million statewide to be distributed to the district. So we receive this money, and then we're supposed to give it to the teaching staff. Now they describe teaching staff specifically in state code as employed in the classrooms. The majority of their job has to be in the classroom. So it's pretty much our instructional teachers. It excludes the other bargaining members such as guidance counselors or media specialists that are not in front of teachers or in front of students the whole time. The board has always honored that, and we've always tried to work out and match those stipends for those classifications as well. You have to be effective or highly effective as a teacher, and you have to be employed in the corporation as of December 1st of the year of the distribution. So they are guaranteed to send us the money. The state sends us the money by December 5th, so they have to be employed by December 1st. So our teacher appreciation grant complies with the law, where effective will get a portion, and then highly effective will get 25% more. So we match what the state recommends. And then the other thing here that's noteworthy is that we have to distribute it within 20 days of receiving it by December 5th. We typically get this money right around Thanksgiving. And then our policy does say at the board's discretion, we can add 50% of the stipend received to a highly effective teacher's base salary if you'd like. We've only exercised that once, I think, or one year that we did that. And then finally, NYSEG gets their fair share out of that allocation, because NYSEG doesn't get money direct. So as a cooperative, we've agreed to give them a fair share divided out by how many teachers we have. So
All the money we give them, we're gonna give more?
yeah. It ends up being about $10,000 a year on this one. So that's the policy in a nutshell, no changes from the year before, and it's for your recommendation.
A lot of those teachers deserve it, really, especially our teachers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
If we could skip to the teacher evaluation tool, our consulting group is still en route.
Yeah,
So if we-
they are here, they're just in the restroom, they'll be in just a moment. Thank you.
So in front of you is a paper copy of the evaluation plan for certificated employees, specifically to the teacher evaluation. This was part of my established goal for the year, to take the current tool and really reorganize all of the information in a more user-friendly format, easy to find, something we could upload to the state, feel very proud of. At the same time, there were some areas for needed improvement based on teacher feedback as well as administrative feedback. We talked about those areas of improvement with the teachers union on August 10th. Some of the areas of needed improvement were timelines in receiving written feedback, the requirements for a pre-conference versus a post-conference after a formal observation. There was some terminology, a short visit versus a long visit to a classroom, and just making that more professional with an informal observation, formal observation. Student growth was also an area that we addressed, amongst some other things. So with a 2-hour collaboration session, a lot of ideas thrown out there, a lot of give and take, we landed on the following proposal that's in front of you. I actually have a slide presentation that it's probably a more abbreviated version to go over this. The law does require that I explain this tool to you in a public meeting, so that's the purpose of us reviewing it today.
Andy, do we have a copy of? So that I can compare.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
So the copy that I just handed Deborah, which can be passed around, is every evaluation instrument and rubric. I didn't copy all of the multiple pages of the actual rubric because that didn't change. The only change was the front part, which is what I provided to you.
Okay, thank you.
So while I'm pulling that up on the screen, I guess we can go through the paper copy first. Just start out the gate with philosophy, outline the objectives, put into the legal requirements that Indiana Code requires to be a part of it, identify the evaluators, that's on page 1. Going to page 2, outline the key dates for more clarity amongst teachers and admin, and quick reference point. One of the items that we heard was that at the end of the year, there was this mad dash to get classroom observations completed, etc. We upped that deadline to April 1st, so there would be a mad dash at the end with all summative evaluations being delivered May 15th.
Good.
That would afford time to wrap everything up prior to the closeout of the school year. So we did adjust some of those dates. On page 3, we went into a section of terminology, so everybody had common reference points. That continues on over to basically page 6, where it outlines 3 strands. 3 strands are basically a probationary teacher track, which I'll explain in a moment, an established professional teacher track, and then a remediation track. And at this point, I will transition to the screen for more presentation-friendly explanation. So this slide presentation was put together so that principals would go over this plan with the group of teachers as a whole. This is a change in practice from the past. What happened in the past, or up to this point, is administrator would meet at the beginning of the year, one-on-one with the teacher, hey, do you have any questions about the process? And so they would do that with each individual teacher. This puts all teachers in the same room, opportunity to ask questions, everybody on the same page, same message. So the first is, what's your designation? A probationary teacher is a first or second year teaching in Tri-Creek schools, regardless if you had any experience prior to coming here or not. And you could also have a probationary status if you were a needs improvement or ineffective on a previous evaluation cycle. Professional teacher is more than 2 years of teaching and had an effective or highly effective. And then an established teacher was any teacher prior to July 1st, 2011 and having effective or highly effective grading. So, number of observations, you can see how it's sorted out in 2 columns. We did streamline this from the previous booklet that you had. I didn't say booklet. So for probationary teachers, there'll be 2 informal observations and 1 formal. And for the professional established teacher, a 1-and-1. The informal observation can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, could be 90 minutes. There's no minimum requirements. A observer, evaluator to go in, observe, type comments, share with the teacher within 5 days. A formal observation is a minimum of 30 minutes in the classroom. I have encouraged my administrators, and I'm insisting on my administrators to spend an entire class period or a duration of a lesson and or block to give due diligence to somebody's official evaluation. That way they can see how class is open, how learning objectives are communicated, how questioning occurs, how kids are engaged, how do we know that kids learn what they're supposed to know, a reflection piece, and a closure. They can see that firsthand. So for a probationary teacher, you have a primary evaluator assigned to you. For this set of teachers, a pre-conference is required. So a pre-conference is an opportunity to sit down with the evaluator, talk about your approach to lesson planning, talk about the dynamics of the class, how many students have individualized education plans, if you have English learners in your class, to really get a feel of context with the assignment of a teacher. There's dialogue back and forth, go over the unit of study coming up. We also said for formal observations, administrators would give an advance notice with a 5-day window of when the evaluator would be coming to the room. Before, it was just unannounced. This provides an opportunity for that pre-conference dialogue. Here's the scope and sequence, context of the lesson, so that when the evaluator goes in, they have an idea of what's going on in that classroom. Post-conference is required for probationary teachers. This allows that dialogue to talk about the notes that were written up and any other element of the teaching assignment. The purpose of that is to, again, avoid any kind of last minute, end of the year, oh yeah, by the way, that observation that I did in January, yeah, let's talk about it now 6 months later. So it's trying to avoid that. Post-observation conference while it's fresh. And if it's a probationary teacher, it provides feedback that's timely so that if there are areas of needed improvement, the teacher has time to improve. For established and professional teachers, pre-observation conferences are not required, they're optional. They can be requested by the teacher or the administrator. If any party requests it, it shall take place. Same thing with post-observations. Artifacts, we've outlined what those are. Elements, so an element is that teacher rubric. It's divided up into categories. If any one element has a needs improvement along the journey, then there's an opportunity to talk about that. Also, not every element can be observed in one particular class period, so this section talks about how to address that. I already told you about pre-observation and post-observation. Summative conference, they're not mandatory. Hopefully there's no surprise. Feedback is given throughout the year as observations occur. Again, they can be requested by the teacher and or the administrator. For probationary teachers, it is the same situation. Most of the meaningful conversation would have already taken place. Should a teacher need to go to a remediation plan, that language is outlined in the document, and also how to address out-of-classroom observations, so such as teacher meetings, work at the professional learning community table, just anything related to the teaching assignment that may not be observed in the actual classroom students. The summative evaluation has 5 components. Really, we're rating components 1 through 4. They have weights assigned to them, and then a 5th component with professionalism that would actually then alter that score more in a deduction type of mindset. There's an example so that teachers can see exactly how things are calculated. And then in this slide presentation, principals have the opportunity to go in there, do screenshots, and lay out the expectations in their process for how the Standards for Success digital platform works in their building. And then again, an opportunity for the whole group to ask clarifying questions and everybody be on the same page. That's it in a nutshell.
I have a question regarding, you met with the teachers regarding the plan. In the past, I've heard them complain about, well, what if I had a bad day on that day? How, is there any allowance built in for that?
Yeah, they can they can tell the evaluator, hey, can you come back with that? But that was also in the days of unannounced. With the formal observation, as you probably noticed in here, when it's announced, then.
And I understand that would be okay for high school, whereas if you're in junior high, but in grade school, you never know what's gonna happen.
That's where the pre and post conferences are valuable too.
You know, I just like to see that they have a certain chance that they have a bad day.
So the items of improvement we worked through together, but it really was in a sense of a short term, because with the evaluation rubric itself, there's a need to take a look at a different rubric for improving.
There's a lot of stuff for 30 minutes, isn't true.
So long term, which I pitched to the teachers organization is and principals as well, is to take a look at the Charlotte Davidson evaluation rubric. It's very well put together. It's been tried and true for over a decade. It has a lot of resources, a lot of clarity with explanation. So the intent is to spend this school year learning more about this rubric to then work with the teachers and possibly transitioning to this for the 23-24 school year. So no action is needed. It's the legal requirement to review with the board. So Ward, you had a good point. We'll definitely accommodate those teachers who have a bad day. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, board members. I am excited the opportunity tonight to share with you a guest presentation. So sitting to my left is Brandy Muha, our principal at Oak Hill Elementary School. She also serves as the committee chairperson for our early learning committee. As you recall, going back to like our facility study, we heard a lot from our community members about the results of the pandemic and a very substantial decrease in quality pre-K programs in our community. Many that were long-standing no longer exist, and we have families that are scrambling to find opportunities for those kids that are going into pre-K and then will one day become Tri Creek School Corporation students. So under Brandy's leadership, a committee was together which included Deborah Harden as well, a board member, kindergarten teachers, building administrators and district administrators to do exploration, and really at the heart of it to just gather as much information as we can, because early learning is a very, very different world than what we know well in K through 12. By good fortune, we were able to kind of make some network connections, which eventually led us to our guest presenters who are here tonight. So joining us are Lisa Mettler and Amanda Lopez, who come to us from Transform Consulting Group. And what we've asked them to do tonight is really just share with you an opportunity that would provide for a potential partnership. Because we don't have that local expertise in ensuring that we have high quality pre-K seats for our community members, we wanted to reach out to people that do this, who are reputable, who have worked with the Department of Education and schools across the state to ensure that there are high quality pre-K seats available to community members. So tonight what they're really going to offer is a scope of proposed work. This is what their services would look like as consultants to help advise us, to help guide us, to help lay the foundation if we wanted to continue down that pathway of bringing pre-K to Tri Creek School Corporation, which is operated by us with our own teams. So they're gonna share more. I'm sure at the end they're happy to answer questions that we might be able to pass along to them. And eventually take your feedback. Brandy and I will return with them, talk about the things that we like about the proposal, address any clarifying questions that the board may have, and ultimately, if we want to go forward, return to the board with a proposal for that partnership. So tonight's really just about more information gathering and learning what this partnership could potentially look like in the future. So I welcome you guys to the stage. I thank you guys for making the trek up. I apologize, apologize for any delays in travel, but we're glad that you guys made it. This is the first time we've had the chance to actually meet in person. All of our previous meetings have been done virtually. So I'll pull your slides up here and I'll let you guys take over.
Are you going to be the curves for me?
I'm happy to, yep. I take direction well.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Amanda Lopez. I'm the president at Transform Consulting Group, and I'm joined by my colleague, Lisa Medler, who would be the project lead. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for you to actually meet who you would be in close contact with of leading the project here. So in talking with Kevin and Brandy, we wanted to just take an opportunity to share with you a little bit more of our background and expertise in this field. Some of the learnings that we have, and then we put together a proposed project plan scope that we think we could walk through with you over this coming school year in anticipation of launching a pre-K program next school year, 23-24. So go ahead. So our agenda is just, like I said, get to know us a little bit more in our background, talk through the project plan, explain what our role and responsibilities will be. We know you work with other consultants, so we want to explain what we would be on the hook for and what we'll be responsible for completing, but also we see it as a partnership because we will walk away and you're going to be the ones carrying it on, and we want to make sure there's really good engagement and buy-in with the plan that we're going to propose here. And then definitely want to leave time for any questions you have for the project. So we are a national women-owned strategic data consulting firm. We are based in Indiana, but we do work with organizations across the country. But we have team members that are not too far away from here, so that'll be great to come in person and on site. You can just go on. Here is the three areas that we focus on. Is we're really passionate about using data and being data informed, and hearing your conversation earlier, it seems like that is a big focus we know at schools as well. But you'll see throughout our project plan how we're going to gather a lot of different data, both qualitative and quantitative, to really inform and develop a pre-K program that works for Tri-Creek School Corporation. We also do a lot of work around building capacity, creating strategic plans, helping to come alongside organizations to strengthen your organization, and mobilizing partners. We want to have that buy-in and engagement to move forward the work that we do. So the next one is just kind of a footprint of where we've worked across the state and the 4 key client audiences. So I think because we do serve a broad cross sector, so in Indiana, we worked with many of the state agencies, those who oversee childcare and pre-K, which is kind of split in Indiana with FSSA and the Department of Education. So because of those relationships, we really understand what the current policies are and requirements to keep you current. We work with a lot of community-based nonprofit organizations. We work with education agencies like yourselves, and then philanthropic partners, so foundations across the state. A little bit more about what we do in education. So we'll help a school system conduct a feasibility study. You might be exploring, is it possible to implement this new program model, this new design, similar to this pre-K model. We'll help you with grant writing work. We do a lot of data analysis, data visualization with your information that you gather, just to make it more meaningful and useful. We'll do school community partnerships, gather feedback to help inform, should we launch this initiative, what does the community or key stakeholders say about doing that. So these are just some examples of projects that we've done in working with schools. In our kind of subject matter expertise, if you go to the next slide. So we kind of span a broad area of focus. Our team is made up of practitioners. So we have former educators, former social workers, former people who worked in justice. So it really gives a lot of expertise when we come to you. So we're not having to get caught up on what the current issues are in your industry. So we do work with early learning, a lot of out-of-school time, youth development programs, K-12, child welfare, health and human services, adult education, workforce development, and coalition building, which is kind of the big ticket items. The next one talks a bit more deeply about our early learning expertise, which really runs the gamut of our deep knowledge and expertise. So we have worked, as I mentioned, at the state level of preparing state reports and really having that like 40,000 bird's eye view foot of what's happening as far as early learning pre-K. We've worked with the state to implement the state-funded on my way pre-K program, from designing the program model and helping to get it up and running and implemented. We worked with many counties across the state as they look at the issue related to what Kevin was just talking about, especially with COVID more recently really disrupting childcare. But communities coming together and saying we really want to increase childcare. It's impacting our ability to grow our local economy, attract more employers, support our workforce. And so we'll come and help them at a county level develop a plan of action. To do that, we'll do feasibility studies. We worked in Jay County, which is a community that's seeing population decline, and they have empty school buildings. And so they had the idea of converting an empty school building into an early learning center. So not just pre-K, but really becoming that childcare hub for their community, because there is no childcare center. So we did some feasibility studies to determine what that could look like. We've also at a county or even a statewide level have worked to just add childcare, like expand the capacity of childcare and high quality. So we've launched several projects there. In Central Indiana, Indianapolis area, we worked with 60 childcare programs to help them become licensed and registered and advance in the state's quality rating improvement system. We've also been a part of other training and technical assistance programs that really come alongside childcare to provide more high quality programming, curriculum, staff development, really working to just professionalize the field. And then we worked with several schools like yourself who are wanting to expand beyond kind of a part-day program because they see the need in the community of more full-day options as more parents are working, and looking to have that opportunity, as well as wanting to have your students coming in to kindergarten ready to succeed, and knowing the critical value and importance that happens in those first 5 years of life related to brain development. So we work with several different schools in our state, and we can talk a little bit more later on about that. And we have our resident expert, Lisa, who has had all the hats in the field of early learning. She's been a director administrator of a early learning center program that's high quality and rated. She's been a trainer of programs in a community, a region, and the state level, and so she just has deep knowledge and expertise when it comes to early learning. So she's going to walk you through what our proposed project plan is. Feel free to ask any questions as we're going along, but also you could ask them at the end.
Great, thanks Amanda. So we have proposed that our project plan be in 2 phases. And so that phase 1 would happen from September to December. And that would be really where we take the opportunity to get to know Tri Creek School Corporation a bit more, assess the need, and create that plan of action to be able to be for a successful launch in August of 2023. The phase 2 of that would be implementing the plan and launching that pre-K program. And so we're looking at that timeline to be around that January to August time for all of that work that would entail during that period. So we have a 4-step approach. We collaborate with you, we assess, facilitate, and create. And so while this looks linear on the screen, this process is not always linear. So it may be easy to say first we're going to collaborate together, then yes.
Do you do that with our teachers?
We can.
No.
She said we can.
Oh, you can.
So while it isn't linear, we will work on that process together where we collaborate, and then we may assess next, and then we might create something and then come back to facilitate. So it is a process that we work together with you all to make sure that the plan is going to work once we step away. So we'll kind of just go through these steps a little bit just so you can have a better idea of what each of those might look like. So for that collaboration, looking at that September to October 2022 timeframe, where we would have a project kickoff, where we would gather together and really dive more in depth of what the issues are, what your concerns are, where we have expertise in, what we can do to assist within that time period. We then would do a partner and stakeholder engagement. During that project kickoff, we will find those individuals or the other schools in the area that you would kind of want to benchmark yourself on or to be able to find information from. So we would find that during that kickoff time, and then we would lead those engagement groups with those stakeholders. And then do a facility audit. Take a look at the schools within your corporation, what spaces are available, who has space during what different times that are available, what does the parking look like, what does the bathroom situation look like, what does the playground look like, all of those things that would be required for licensing. So that would happen there within that first phase of collaboration.
If we have no empty spaces for that.
That's what then we would take a look at to see what are some other options that might be within the community of someone that we could partner with to be able to determine how we could still do it under the Tri-Creek School Corporation umbrella.
I think that's the way you have to take this.
Yes, we just heard from Brandy walking in
Yes.
that you guys are a growing district, and which is a wonderful problem to have. But the pre-K program does not have to be operated within your building, and so there are models where schools partner with community-based organizations, like Lisa said. So those are all options on the table that we would look at.
So that next phase is assessing and taking a look at what is the community need. So we know, we just talked about that the school corporation is growing. We also know, Kevin shared at the beginning of our time, that there is a need for early education and care. And so while we have those perceived needs, is that truly a need? And so taking a look at what that community need is and determining that supply and demand. And during this phase, we would have a deliverable of a report on the community need for pre-K.
And I would say, just to add on to what Lisa was saying there, and so we will pull in a lot of public data. So we're going to look at population demographics and trends, but also assess, there's some other state resources online, so we can determine what's the existing capacity of spots available, and not only that, but like where are they located geographically, are they accessible, what are the hours, the schedule, and how does that align with your workforce demands in the community as well. And so taking all of that quantitative, publicly available secondary data, and then we're going to combine that with qualitative data of your potential audience, parents. What do they want? What is their perceived demand? We don't want to add, 150 seats if that's really not the need, and you're going to have too many spots available. So this is really where we're going to get into the data here for your community.
So then that third phase, the facilitating consensus. So what are the recommendations that we find from using that qualitative and quantitative data and the other reports, and really work on the program design, the operational plan, a budget, and staffing. And so during this phase, we would then create a recommendation for pre-kindergarten programming within the Tri-Creek School Corporation. And then the last phase is creating. And so what would that program model look like, and how would we implement it? So discussing all of those 4 phases again, and creating a program and implementation plan that can be taken to be utilized to make it happen in August of 2023. Which then leads into that second phase of the plan, which is implementation. So just because we have the reports and the information, it doesn't mean that we leave it all to Brenda or Kevin and say, good luck. It's how do we implement it and work together to be able to work through state licensure and certification and registration. How can we tie in the program to other state funding sources, such as Child Care Development Fund vouchers, or On My Way Pre-K, or Pass to Quality, as you receive certain, as you have a certain level, then you have a certain reimbursement rate coming back to you. The hiring and training of staff, the communication and outreach, seeking other funds such as grants. We know that ESSER is a possible opportunity here, but what other grants and funding could be available to work and assist in creating the program. And then other support as needed. With that then becomes the transition plan. So assisting with that training and the hiring of staff, developing some standard operating procedures. Just because you have a preschool program, it doesn't just run on its own with everyone having the knowledge coming into the door. And so having those standard operating procedures to be able to utilize and refer back to when we are no longer here. Also helping to follow the requirements and create a system. you all probably already have tons of systems that you utilize to report out to the DOE and other such funders, but creating some systems that will then incorporate those of the preschool program. Any questions?
I have questions regarding funding. I'm retired now, but the company I used to work for, Simmons Corporation, runs CCDF and primarily pre-K in Lake County. And not just Lake County, but North Indiana. So how would you tie into that funding, I guess? How would you, our site be eligible for that funding? Is that how that would work? We would be certified by them as being.
Yeah, we would set the program up so that it is eligible to receive that CCDF funding. That's the first one that you mentioned. And so with CCDF funding, there are certain requirements that a program needs to be able to have. And so we would make sure that from the get-go that the program was ready to receive those funds. On Lightweight Pre-K, that does require, that may not be able to happen right away at the first year, because it does require a certain level on the Indiana's quality improvement rating system, pass to quality. You need to be a level 3 or 4 to be that provider, and you need to be in business for just a little bit longer than a few months to be able to receive that funding. But everything would be set up so that it would be a successful transition into receiving those funds.
Right. I mean, I was wondering how you're gonna work in the kids whose incomes are not high.
Right.
So, I mean, would there be fees for other parents who were eligible for this program, or how would that usually happens? They have to pay as they go.
Yes, so there'd probably be a combination of funding sources. So the state subsidy grants, which are the Child Care Development Fund or CCDF. On My Way Pre-K is another one. And then also private pay with families, or what within the school district may be looking at Title I dollars or Child and Adult Care Food Program dollars coming in to be able to offset costs. So how do we look at all the funding opportunities that are available to determine the right price that we need for those families that don't qualify for assistance, so that they would still be able to work and afford the program without getting into too much being bogged down by those funds, as it is expensive to operate an early education and care program.
I think too, it goes back to that beginning meeting is what is our goal, right? And so for the school and your community, you have to determine who do you want to serve. And that really then sets the tone for us to determine what's the business model and the funding model that will sustain that program. So schools do have a commitment. You want to serve the kids who can't afford it in the community, or you want to serve your staff's kids, because that's a workforce retention strategy, right? I mean, we can have multiple goals. So depending on what those goals are, then we're going to look at the funding options. Schools are a little bit uniquely, have more funding streams than community-based standalone child care center does. So there's just different avenues that we can look at to do that. And we know doing this very well. They're one of our clients, and we do a lot of work with them.
I think it's worth noting that there are two things that we've had the opportunity to share with the board. Number one, we went on a site visit that Brandy coordinated with us to go see some early learning centers in Illinois. And our eyes were wide, and we're like, my gosh, these are beautiful, we would love to have those. Incredible rooms, incredible spaces, just a wonderful place for those pre-K kids to go. We were inspired by that. A second thing is we heard from our community members, like, you need an early learning center. You need to build an early learning center, and just the kids will come. I think what's really important is that knowing those two things, and it's like inspiring and exciting those make us. What Brandy kind of recommended from the feedback of the committee and making these network connections is a slow, deliberate, and intentional rollout is better for us, because we're doing everything in that phase one to really begin with purpose and need before we just build something without doing that analysis first. So as inspiring, as exciting as it is to see the potential of what might come, if we don't begin with what we're really trying to achieve, then we won't get to that point and we might make a misstep because we haven't gathered enough information. We wouldn't have done the analysis to get us into the second phase of here's the recommendation.
Yeah, you keep hearing high quality.
Right.
So we want something that is going to last long after we are gone. We don't want to just slap a program together and hope for the best. We We really want to, like Kevin said, be intentional with every step of the way. And as we started really doing that information seeking, we were getting overwhelmed with how much information there is and how much there is to do it well and do it right for our community. And so Kevin actually had the connection to get us with these wonderful ladies here. And just listening to you and your knowledge, it makes me excited to think this is what we've been seeking. This is what we've been looking for, someone to help guide us to that path of where we want to go for high quality, early education, set our community on the right path from early on. When they walk in the door to kindergarten, they're ready to go.
And we have worked, I think you can build a lot of momentum around that shiny new facility. And we've worked with those programs who've been in existence for a few years and they've lost the funding. Because there can be a lot of excitement for a capital campaign to build it and then people walk away. But if we haven't planned thoughtfully and intentionally about that business model, because it is still a business, just like you operate a business, right? It's not gonna sustain and we're gonna struggle. So we wanna make sure we're really thoughtful and intentional about what is realistic and how you can maintain and sustain it.
And I would also like to add that our scope of understanding is K-12 education. And Kevin alluded to that in his introduction. So this is a new world for us all. Yeah. So as we're exploring, we're learning. So to have some experts alongside us so we don't do missteps or make unnecessary missteps along the way is very beneficial to us.
How do you get your information as far as from the community itself?
Yeah, so we'll deploy several different mixed methods of a combination of surveys, some focus groups, and interviews. And that'll be part of our discovery conversation at that first kickoff meeting is figuring out who we want to reach out to, and then we'll figure out what's the best methods. Ideally, if folks are already gathering, we want to talk to parents of young children. Is there a large employer, a factory? We're going to talk to those, folks there and on a lunch break or something, or we're going to send out a survey. So we think about, what are those natural methods that we can already actively engage in to reach those core audience partners. But it'll be a combination of surveys, focus groups, and interviews. I think we do have a few more slides. We just wanted to pause there quickly to talk about any questions on the plan, and then I think just a few more to talk about just the deviation of responsibilities between us and you.
So as a TCG team, what we promise through this is to lead on completing the project plan and ongoing engagement and communications with status meetings and reports, as well as present the plans and options to you. And then because we are collaborative in this process, there are some pieces that you are all responsible as well for. And that's identifying a team lead and any other key staff members that we would be working directly with, providing any necessary access to any information that we might need to help us on those discovery pieces, and then assisting with any outreach and communication methods. So as Amanda said, if there's already something happening where parents of early childhood families are already attending, how can you assist us to get that information to them as well there? And then providing any feedback or input on anything that we bring to you so that we can get the best plan for the process moving forward.
We're not coming in with a pre-baked pre-K program for you. This is really going to be customized to what makes sense for your schools and your community. So we really believe in that collaborative approach, but we're going to do the heavy lift because we know your capacity time is limited.
And so at that first inquiry meeting, we can decide if we would like to have bi-weekly meetings or if we would like to have monthly status meetings between us. And then also we would be providing some monthly status reports describing any accomplishments, recent activities that we've done, any issues that may arise, and just general status report. Because it is, while we want to make sure that we're doing it right from the beginning, it is a swift timeline on the other hand of that as well. And so that way we're all informed and keeping those pieces together. And so we have, behind Amanda and I, are our other colleagues who we had, you don't see them here, but you can see them denoted on the screen here. And so we have a vast array of other team members that assist us with a communications manager, data analysis, project research support. And so we really bring in a whole team to be able to work for you on creating the plan that you would need. So here's just a brief look at what your consultant team would look like. You have Amanda, who's here. Her and I are here today, so Amanda and myself. And then Kathy Wright, who is one of our other project consultants within the Transform team as well, who has early learning experience. Any additional questions?
So if we designate a team lead,
Yes.
how much time, what's the time impact on that person?
So I think that goes to the cadence of the meetings. So, maybe 4 hours a month, give or take, a couple hours, depending on, how often we're checking in, and then sharing information back and forth electronically. And I would say too, we anticipate a lot of meetings virtually as well, but there are times where we'll be in the community, obviously walking through the community, connecting with folks in the community. It sounds like you already have an existing committee, so maybe that liaison team lead, and then we would bring that committee together a couple of different times throughout our engagements and kind of say, here's some of the preliminary findings we have, what do we think? So we're getting a little bit more of a broader, perspective and some feedback and input there as well.
I apologize if I missed it. Did you talk any about philosophical approach such as play-based versus that more traditional academic approach?
We didn't get into that yet here.
Is that something you
Yes.
would sort through
Yes.
and talk about what research says?
Yes.
Maybe look at models?
Yes, so yes, we would present, here are the different kind of latest in research and trends around program models. There's forest pre-K, there's Reggio Emilio. There's a whole, like you said, K-12, there's a whole growing body of research around early learning models, conscious discipline for social emotional behavior, child assessments, classroom observation assessments. So we will have a checklist of all of the items as it relates to kind of what you want to have here.
And then I'm assuming that would then lead into recommendations for facilities. How they're set up.
Yes, so in that budget, we'll have a startup cost budget, which would be kind of what we would need to do to either renovate, not only to meet licensing, but to be developmentally appropriate to the model that you have chosen, and then if there's any ongoing costs related to that.
How about assistance with how to recruit people to teach, that job description, any licensure and scheduling, all that.
All of that. Yeah, we will have in that business plan a hiring strategy. And so we worked in other communities to help them address the hiring challenges related to the early learning workforce, which we know is not that too different, but helping to build up partnerships between your career track ed, who might have a child development partnership with your Ivy Tech, and then Onway. So we're kind of building up our own talent pipeline. So we have a lot of different models out there we can look at to see. Also, we will talk about, how do you want to staff it? Is it a licensed teacher? Is it a para? Is it a different level than your K-12? Because there's some flexibility there. So we can share what other schools have done and what some different models look like when it comes to pay and benefits.
Have you ever run into any resistance by current K-12 teachers resistant to a preschool program? And if so, what would be the reasons?
I can think of any. And in fact, we've also helped to create kind of that K transition process, especially if you are already in the building, and there's some natural things we can do, but we'll have the pre-K teachers go and observe the K so they can understand what's expectations for those kiddos coming into K to get them ready. It's maybe been a while since they've seen what a K classroom looks like. And then on the flip side, for those K teachers to go and observe the pre-K classroom so they can understand what's happening. And then we have facilitated conversations, kind of that peer learning. So those are kind of things that we could build into the model if that's something we wanted to do. Even having a K teacher or two on your committee, which it sounds like you do already. But no, most of the times they see that value because they see what happens when children are showing up not ready or not having that high quality prior early learning experience.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was still
going through your Rolodex.
Still going through my, yes, and I can't think of any that had that issue.
Thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.
Yeah, Randy and I thank you both for making the trip up and getting to meet you in person and putting together such a thoughtful and custom plan to hopefully meet. Just to kind of give you, obviously, there's a lot of conversations that go into this presentation. They're wonderful listeners. They heard exactly what we were hoping for with that slow intentional rollout. They knew some of the things that were our limitations, and they put all of that into it. So feeling confident that it's not, here is how you do pre-K and it's in a box. It's very much been about listening and getting to know one another in preparation for this, putting together that proposal. So thank you both for taking the time to do that and coming to meet with us tonight.
Yes, thank you. We're really excited about the possibility of this.
Definitely.
I was really hopeful that this can happen soon. As a parent who had a couple kids go through preschool and then that preschool closed to see the need for the community. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry Google Maps dropped you guys in the middle of the.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Lowell.
Yeah, we need to like update the Google Map location.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all.
I know, I'm really trying to think of
I didn't even think of that.
I'm sure they love to have it, fill out the kids again. I'm sure they all, I think they would love that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It has a cool gym and all that kind
Oh,
of
it
stuff.
does, because I was trying to do something like that. And I was like, I don't know what that is.
Still playground, playgrounds for that age.
Thanks for that.
Okay.
Adjunct teacher policy, review and proposal of possible future adoption.
Yeah, so there's no change to what we presented to you last week. It still remains here as a possible option for the board to consider making a policy. No action tonight. We do need to discuss this thoroughly in a meaningful way with the teachers union. So it still remains as a placeholder, still give you time to contemplate, and I'll certainly bring feedback from the teachers union to the next meeting.
Number two, non-privatization policy, review and amendment.
Yeah, so presented last week was a draft version. Since then, we're looking to still have some modified language, specifically in regards to attending open houses, perhaps being invited to a wedding, some of those public events, and how we can still perhaps have that available for our teachers and maintain professional. So we'll come back next week with a slight revision.
Consent items, accept the donation from the American Legion Auxiliary of Lowell, Indiana in the form of 4 bags of school supplies for Lake Prairie Elementary School.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Public comment? Have anything? Other information, recap of the start of the 22-23 school year.
I know Deborah attended some events. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share with the board.
I was at the, what was that called? It was, we took the picture and did, introduction about the new teachers.
So all staff received a t-shirt. On the front side was their particular building or department that they worked for, and on the back was a comment or Tri Creek message. During the morning time, each building took a staff photo, and then at 1 o'clock, all district employees converged on Lowell High School. We did one combined staff photo, and if you think taking family photos at Christmas is a challenge and getting people placed, you can imagine having 420 some people. We followed the staff photo with a couple of activities, actually based on board feedback, and it
dodgeball, which was very entertaining to watch. The new high school gym teacher killed it. Like, it was amazing. Came to play for sure. And then, the backwards ABCs, which I think the fastest time was like 2 seconds to recite the ABCs backwards.
I was like, how?
2 seconds. It was amazing. I think I have it on video. I'll have to show you. Yeah.
Like the whole alphabet?
The whole alphabet.
I can say it forwards that fast.
Right? X to A. The whole alphabet. She was really good.
That's impressive.
From Oak Hill. She was from Oak Hill.
This is my thing.
Yes. So that was fun. I sat in the middle of everybody, and it was fun to hear them all talk about dodgeball and the ABCs. And they thought that it was, at least everyone that I could hear thought that it was neat.
So then we went to the auditorium, and we had our district business meeting, and we had report outs from all the cabinet members and directors about just communication and updates. And
Yeah, I actually shared a fact that I had no clue, but John Becker was there from transportation, who was full of fun facts. But he shared the operational cost for electricity here at the middle school building before solar was put in, which was somewhere in the vicinity of just over $19,000 for 1 month. And that now we pay like $32, and that's just because that's the minimum that we have to pay, and the rest we get from our solar bills. So I thought that was very neat. I'm sure that would be helpful people. And they introduced all the new staff, which was nice to see some faces with some new names. And then they also introduced all the staff that had been there, and they received like a certificate if you've done 5 years, 10 years, 25 years. With the longest being a janitor.
Terry Johnson.
Yes.
Lowell Middle School, I think it was 45 years
Yes.
this year, which is amazing.
I remember.
I know. I didn't. The name didn't sound familiar, but when he stood up, I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
I knew Terry, and then every time I say it, I'm like, oh man.
He does. He looks exactly
We got a
the same.
well-deserved standing ovation for
Yes.
everybody there. It was a really cool moment.
Yeah. So that was neat.
He wasn't always at the middle school.
No, I don't think so.
He was at, yeah, I was gonna say, I remember.
I mean, in
Oak Hill.
45 years, I may have been in every building. But
I did
yeah.
my 13 years here.
Who years the guy?
Mr. Louis?
Yeah.
So it wasn't, they go in 5-year increments. So Louis might, I don't know what Louis' number is right now, but Terry was the most that was at one of those 5-year marks.
He may be 46, he was.
Yeah, right.
His year.
Right. But they all got
Yeah.
a certificate and a gift certificate for stuff that she's here.
Sure. So other activities that took place during the organization days is all staff in the district were engaged in about an hour, 15 hour, 20 minutes of working with our new strategic plan and talking, discussing that, going through that. Another session was in regards to school safety. And so all of the people who went through 3 ops training from each building, they then led their building through that presentation. Got a lot of good feedback. And back to school nights, I believe there were over 600.
This middle school was crazy. The parking lot was full. There were people parked in the grass. The halls were full. And honestly, compared to, I came with my son, the last one we had, which I can't remember if it was last year.
Probably would have been 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6th grade? There was nobody here. Nobody. Not a soul. Not even teachers. Not all the teachers were even here. So it was really nice to see all the bodies and all the teachers. I think my son, my 6th grader, they had cookies and chips and stuff out the teachers all did in their little hallway, and the lines for the laptops were the worst. That I don't know if we can figure out how to fix that moving forward, but otherwise it was really neat to see everybody here.
And I don't know if you've all heard any comments from community members about the start of school. Sometimes no news is good.
Exactly.
It was fun to start with the fun delay.
Yes.
I heard a lot of positives
Yeah.
on the fog delay start on the first day of school. I enjoyed the extra.
There was grumblings until they walked outside.
You know, it's interesting because, just making the rounds of the elementaries and seeing the arrival, there was an added calmness.
Yes,
having
I think that extra 2 hours definitely gave everybody, kids and parents alike, just that extra time of, you know, waking up and getting out the door and.
I don't know if any cabinet members have anything else to add. I know you all did your thing with your departments, but.
I thought it was a really strong start to the year. I do, I feel like people, I know that the phrase like normalcy keeps being thrown around, but you're truly beginning the first year without like safety protocols in place that would limit the ability to do what you do. And I think that there's finally like that since we started off the year, very normal, the way that we're accustomed to. So yeah, I've heard a lot of positivity, a lot of good feedback. I think it started on the right foot.
See, also a lot of positivity from our new teachers. They feel like they're prepared, they feel like they're already becoming part of the family, so a lot of good feedback from them as well.
My son was a new third grade teacher. Oh. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
All right, next meeting will be Thursday, September 8th.